let's take the example of Ukraine. If tomorrow Putin decides, I pray that it does not happen, and I'm still not sure it will happen, and I still think that Biden and Macron can prevent it. But let's imagine that Putin invades Ukraine. Do you really think, first of all, it would be a shame?
Sure.
It would be a disaster for Ukraine, and we would have the responsibility of having dropped flat people, ladies and gentlemen, who are fighting for us and for our values. But it will have a huge domino effect. Europe as itself would be attacked. The Western world as itself would enter in an area of turmoil, unimaginable turmoil. The whole world would be disorganized by that. And America, behind its trenches, its fortress, will be isolated, will let the lead forever to Xi Jinping, to Vladimir Putin, to Erdogan, to all those, to those guys who are the enemies of America, who are the enemies of Europe, who are the enemies of the values on which our society are based.
What we wanted to achieve out of COP26, and our overarching ambition was to ensure that we kept 1.5 alive. And what, of course, that means, the audience will know, is that the Paris Agreement said that world leaders should work together to limit global temperature rises to 2 degrees and aiming for well below that, aiming towards 1.5. And that's why keeping 1.5 alive was so important for us. And the way that we were very keen to deliver that was to get much more progress on emission reduction commitments, on finance to support developing nations, on getting support for adaptation, and then, of course, to close off the outstanding elements of the Paris rule book so that that could be operationalized.
First of all, my first advice to President Zelensky, if I saw him, would be to give a break to former President Poroshenko. What is happening since a few hours in Kiev is a shame.
Could you remind people what's happening right now?
What is happening is that former President Poroshenko is accused of betrayal of the interests, high betrayal of the interests of the country. Mm-hmm. He was in Poland, he came back, he is facing a heavy prosecution, and the media say that he could go to jail. This, I don't have all the informations, but I know Poroshenko. I met him a few days ago in Paris. I know that this man, who is the father of the new army, who is one of the builders of the new Ukraine, it's a joke to consider him as a betrayal of the fatherland. It's a joke. But it is not only a joke, it is perceived by a lot of Ukrainians, and it is perceived by the allies of Ukraine as a political trial, as a political maneuver. And what I would say to Vladimir Zelensky is that when you are facing Putin, when you are facing a life and death situation as he's facing, national unity is required. And witch hunt against Poroshenko in this case is the worst option.
Top, number one prediction is it's all going to come down to Saudi Arabia when we talk about OPEC Plus. I mean, this is really going to be a big bilateral push, I think, for the Biden administration to try to get Saudi Arabia to put more barrels on the market, because we know the spare capacity just resides in a few number of countries in the region that you sit in. So I think it's going to be an important challenge. I think it's going to be also very, very important to watch, obviously what happens with the Russia-Ukraine situation, because that, I believe, is the path to $100 a barrel oil. And we should be watching, of course, what happens with Iranian nuclear negotiations, because I think that's a very, very important wild card with 1 million barrels of exports potentially.